Okay, I'm going to install this hitch on my 2021 Kona EV, and you're going to learn along with me because I'm just going to shoot this as I go. This is the etrailer's hitch for it. I'll put the model number on screen, but this is the one that's supposed to work with the EV. And I know right off the bat is there are four little bolts. One there, one next to this long thing, which I don't think I have to take off, whatever that does. And then there's complementary ones on the other side. This one, and then another one somewhere around there. Yeah, and then you have these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull out these, get a screwdriver and pull these little fast clips. My initial idea was to use a screwdriver, but I just realized I have this wood chisel, which has a sharper point on it to maybe pull out these plastic things. And then there's a plastic, looks like a washer, and then the fitting. You want to go in between the head and the fitting, not underneath the washer. And they should pop right out, like so. There's another one of these nuts. So you have two. You have this one, and then a complementary one there. Basically, yeah, see, I just unscrewed it. It's captive. And the piece is falling out now. If I just unscrew this some more, maybe. Yeah, look at that. So I've pulled the plastic piece off there, the cowling, whatever you want to call it, to expose the underneath section. Normally there'd be a muffler there, and I count it, looks like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 4 bolts. So as a point of reference, I'm using the etrailer Kurt trailer hitch installation 2020 Hyundai Kona. Although this is a gas car, it gives me some general ideas, and I think if you can actually start the installation probably around 7 minutes into the video. And it looks like there's a drain hole, a freezer drain hole this washer he's referring to, we have to pull out. And I think he said that anything we do on the one side is going to be repeated on the other side. So I think this is the drain. I think they're saying to remove this plug. Okay, so I have my instructions and my iPad with the directions, and I've pulled out my bolts, my parts. It looks pretty basic. It's 4 bolts, 4 washers, and I believe this thing, you put on the carriage bolt and that stops it from spinning once you get it through the hole. And these washers have little spikes on them, so you want to make sure you install them the correct way. And I have my directions, and the first 2 refer to the muffler removal, and then it goes through step 3 is where we pick up. Okay, so there's the drain plug I removed, and I've located what I think are the 2 holes where the bolts will go, is that one and that one. Putting this in and through. Again, this is in their video, so I'm just repeating this if you want to watch them do it, because structurally at this point I think the cars are the same. First, look at that, like it was supposed to work. These went through pretty easy actually. So learn from my mistake. Looks like they only gave me 3 of these cables. I don't think it's a deal breaker, but it's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm going to have to pull one of the ones that I used already and then use that on the other side with the hitch installed on the one side. So it's going to be kind of awkward, but check your parts before you install. Okay, in the video they say to have help, but I don't have help. So, and I'm 1 cable short, as I mentioned. So what I've done is I positioned the hitch underneath it, and I have a standing jack, which I'm going to hopefully use to hold up the other end. It's kind of interesting because I just set up the other side with that jack, and it's going to have to go up and underneath this flange here. It's kind of weird. I don't want this thing to fall on me. Free dental work, as they say. Okay, so I'm having trouble getting this into position to line up with the holes. It seems to be hitting something, and I think I'm gonna have to pull this gray plastic piece. That would make it easier, and if it comes off easily, and it looks like, you can see there's one of these flanges here that I think would disconnect it. So screw there, screw there. And there's these clips I was mentioning. I think it just fingers into that. So I use a screwdriver there to pry that up right here. So what I'm doing is, I got a screwdriver, which I don't know if you really need to do because it did mar it a little bit, but basically this comes out now, I think, theoretically. So those clips, there we go. I'm afraid that this one may need to be cut or something. Actually, you know what? There's a screw there. I'm going to take that one off because the hitch part here, I think, was hitting it. So after trying to get the hitch up there, I just decided to pull all three of those little support systems down. It's only 3 Phillips. So I ran into a little bit of a hitch, and I don't know if I can explain this very well, but I got the one bolt on, but if you see there on the other one, it's kind of at an angle, and I can't get it to come through. So I went over to the other side, but I was having the same problem with this one here. And what I was sitting there for like 15 minutes, and no matter what, it was matching the other one. In other words, it was at an angle. I just wanted to let you know that you might have that issue where you basically, at this end, you need to install that flat washer or flat piece of metal that stops the carriage bolt from spinning, attach it to the bolt while it's still on this end, and then pull it through as a complete unit. So I finally got them installed. These are all on there loose. I'm going to go ahead and tighten it. I did the other side. The other side was a little bit easier. This thing is kind of loose. It may straighten itself out once you put the bolts in, but I'm going to go ahead and help it along by just putting this in here, and I'm going to wedge it. So there, I've wedged that in there. Don't know if you necessarily need to do this, but that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I got it on, and according to the directions, I torqued it down. I have a torque wrench to 50 foot-pounds, which is quite a bit, actually. I was surprised how much that was. And one thing I wanted to mention, if I haven't already, is there was a fair amount of grease that came through. When I pulled these through, you can't see it probably, but when I initially staked this through, there was a big gob of grease on this, and you might want to wipe that off because I don't think we necessarily want grease on those bolts. So I went ahead and put these pieces back in that hold this gray piece up. Put 2 of them, and the third one I can't install because the hitch is there. As you can see, it lines up perfectly with the hitch, so that'll be supported just by it being wedged in there. I took a rough measurement. I'm going to cut this out there. A little bit wider. So I just pushed that side in where these tongues are, and there was a distinctive click. So just let me see if you can hear it. Hear it? That's the tongues going in. And here on this guy. So screw will tighten that one up. And then that's in. Looks like I went about 1 inch cut out. So got the gray piece in. You want to make sure to get these 2 screws. There's one on each side that attach the gray piece. You can see the tongues up there that went in. And unfortunately, the tow bar is kind of in the way. So I'm going to try and use a short screwdriver. Looks like the short Phillips will fit. Yeah, so right here is a finger. And then it's going to go into this little slot here. Up here. It's going to make a clicking sound. This is it on the other side. There we go. See, this little, there it is. It's snapped in there, and then there's a screw that goes right there. And then I just have to install these Fastex. There's 2 of them. The third one got removed, and then there's one right there that's got to be installed. Just a little side note concerning these tabs, or whatever you call them, that you want to make sure that when you reinsert them, the head of the nail or whatever it's called is separated from the flange, because as it pushes in, that's what expands these feet to keep it snug. And you don't want to forget to reinstall these 2 freezer caps, I think they call them, where we fish the cable through. So I've gone ahead and attached the bottom skid plate there with 2 of the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and mark this so I can figure out where to cut it. So I went ahead and marked it. It looks like it actually corresponds with these grids. There's actually a line here to there, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And there's the piece I cut out. You can see I went a little bit deeper than I originally planned, and I'm going to wrap it up here. That's it. Hope this helps you. Well, I'm back. So of course it never goes as planned, and what I found out was that I had to notch the skid plate. This was my first attempt, so I just did bigger than it needed to be. Cut out a big chunk knowing that it would clear, and I had to go a little deeper, so I think it's in that area in relationship to this. I just cut the middle out, and on this side I was a little bit more careful, and that works there. One thing I do want to mention, I used a hacksaw, but these plastic pieces are easily scored with a razor blade, and I couldn't find my sheet metal cutter. I was going to use that, but basically what I did is I sawed the vertical parts, and then I simply scored with my razor blade this part, and it snaps. So this stuff's very scoreable with the razor blade. So now I'm going to go ahead and install this, and hopefully that's the final piece. There you go, it's done. I put the skid plate in. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the bumper a little bit for my greasy hands. Like I said, there's a fair amount of grease into there. I don't know what it was for. And then what I have left over, other than some shavings from when I was using the razor blade to trim the skid plate and the bumper, the gray bumper, is I lost the one mount that was here. And what that included was a screw to attach it, and then two of the Fastex connector. One was to go there, and the other one was to go there. So if you put all the pieces back, that's what should be left over. And that's about it. Hope this video helped you.